Video number 4. How's everybody doing? So we got both files up, and let's go back into the definition file. So what we're looking for is this specific variable name in our data file. SAT verbal range 25. Well, I want to copy this specific name over to my data file and then do a search for it. Kind of an easy way to get at least find out where our data set starts. So there's a shortcut key within Excel to get into the cell itself. Rather than if I was using my mouse, I would have to click in the formula toolbar. However, escape out of that. You press escape to get out of the cell. Instead of doing that, press F2. Does the same thing, but you're navigating without the mouse. That's one of the key objectives of our classes. So I want to highlight everything. So you press shift and then shift and left. So it highlights the entire set of information. So Control C is copy. Now I copy that information. Once again, let's go through it one more time. I'm trying to go ahead and copy the data out of this cell rather than using my mouse, going in here, highlighting the thing, make copy. Well, for me, it's a lot easier when I have my fingers on the keyboard on the home rows and press F2 and then shift, copy over, and then Control C to copy the data. Now I'm done. So I want to tab over to my data set, which I've done. That was Alt Tab. Now I want to find the information I copied over the specific column header. So I go Control F to pull up the find prompt, and then Control V to paste the information I copied over, Control V, and then I press enter. It's, as you can see, this column header inside the folder toolbar, it starts with X. That's not what we're looking for. We were just looking for SATVR25, which is the 25th percentile. And we can find it over to the column to the right. Column BI is the data I want, and the 6 specific columns that I want is to the right of it. Well, in between there's these X SAT VR. I'm not quite sure what they're for, but they're probably used for within the database to segment a specific item. Looks like actually the information, every time it has R in it, there's data. If there's A, there's no data. So that's fine. We don't need that information. So as you can see, I came from column A. And how do I get back to column A? Control left, right? And then how do I get back to the data that I was looking for is Control F, and there's my information already. I press enter. I go back to where I was in terms of column BI. So I want to get rid of all the data to the left of this column, correct? So how do I highlight the entire column again? That's Shift spacebar. Actually, sorry. Control spacebar, and I want to get to all the way to the home or column A. So I hold down Shift, Control, left. Now everything that's dark is active cells. Well, I want to keep column A, so I hold down Shift and right arrow 1. Now I want to delete all this information that's highlighted. How do I go do that without using the mouse? One way to do it with the mouse is right click and delete. Well, that's not quite what I want to do. I want to perfect my shortcut keys, and if you are proficient in this, it'll be a lot faster than using your mouse. So once again, how do I delete the entire set? Alt E D, which is once again in Microsoft 2007 is Alt E highlights the Edit tab, and D is Delete. Look at that. Fantastic. Now I want to get back to column A. How do I do it? Control left. Very good. Well, there's these specific columns. There's these columns that I want to get rid of. The ones with the X's in it, right? That's not what I need. So how do I do that? The way I would do it is highlight the entire column, which is Control Spacebar, and Alt ED. Same thing for that. All right. As you can see, that was pretty fast, right? Once you become very proficient in using your shortcuts, you'll get just as fast, or if not faster. It's just a little dexterity within your fingers and practice. Practice makes perfect. Now we have all the information that we need. This is the verbal, 25th percentile, 75th percentile. This is the math, 25th percentile, and writing. So everything to the right, I don't need. At this point, we're not looking at ACT tests. And if you want to expand this reporting, you can keep all this data. But the tables become quite large, and the pivot table will be able to handle it. But at this point, for this specific project, we don't need all this data, or we're not going to take all this data. So let's delete all of it. How do I do that? Once again, highlight the entire column, Control Spacebar. Now we want to pick everything to the right, so it's Shift, Control, right arrow. And then how do we delete again? It's Alt ED. Done. Look at that. Wonderful. Now I like this file by itself, so I want to save it as a different version or a different file name. So how do the shortcut key is Alt F A, which is save as. Now, if I want to get into the file name, it's the same thing as what we did in the cell. If you press F2, or actually, it's Alt N. There it is. If you look at the name, anything that has an underscore in Windows, you could get to it by pressing Alt. So if I want to go to file type, I go Alt T. Actually, sorry about that. It's Control T. So we'll go back. So we want to rename this file, correct? So we put version 2. Simple enough. Save it as a workbook, Excel workbook. And look at that. We have our data for our SAT scores. Well, we don't know the school names, but if we have the unique identifier, we could go ahead and merge the two information, correct? That's why we need the unique identifier. It's so important to have specific items that match. All right. Since we saved it, let's close out of this, and there's a shortcut key too. There are function keys you could do, but for me, I've gotten so used to using my home key as my base. That's how I close the file. So one way to close the file is Alt F C. Simple as that.